Hello everybody, I'm Charlie Pratt. I'm the DoD Fed Globe Legal Director. I worked 20 years in a large nonprofit, it's really a billion-dollar nonprofit, working for the DoD. When I was working for the DoD, there were LGBTs in my company. We knew each other, at least a lot of us did, but we were closeted because we had to face homophobia in our customers. I was never harassed on the job, but I have been harassed in my personal life. Fairly recently, as I was leaving a meeting in Hillcrest in San Diego, a car tore around the corner. Young men were yelling, "Kill the fag," and my life flashed before my eyes. They didn't stop, thank God, but in many instances, young men like that do stop and they hurt people. I'm very strongly supportive of the Employee Non-Discrimination Act, and the purpose of this video is to talk to you about what it does and why you should help and how you can help. As far as an overview of ENDA, it was introduced during the Clinton administration in 1994. It covered sexual orientation, so that you could not discriminate against LGBTs. That is a constrained version of our community, though, and issues of gender identity were not covered back in those days. In 2007, the Act was reintroduced to Congress, and with gender identity, which would mean that it would cover transgender folks and genderqueer folks like myself. It was dropped after a huge ruckus within the Democratic Party about whether transgender folks should be covered by the law as well. Our pal Barney Frank, after the 2007 bill had been defeated in the Senate, reintroduced the bill, this time with gender identity included. This has shown a big cleavage between the Democratic Party. Obama has said that he supports the Non-Discrimination Act. Bush said he would veto it. That doesn't mean with the current Congress that it's a slam dunk that ENDA is going to pass. ENDA is important, and the main reason it's important is that LGBTs currently cannot get protection in the courts. ENDA addresses constitutional issues of equal protection and due process. And these have been the fundamental constitutional issues on which a lot of the law that does protect LGBTs has been passed through the courts. Now, one major issue about the constitutional struggle has been the canard that being an LGBT is a choice. Everyone here that I'm addressing who is an LGBT person knows that that's absolutely not true. And I would guess that our heterosexual allies who are viewing this understand their own sexuality has not been a matter of choice. We come pre-wired, that's the way we are, and that's the way I believe it's going to be. It's gotten recognized. I'm also a psychologist. I'm a PhD psychologist. I'm quite proud to say that the American Psychological Association has asserted that sexual identity, sexual orientation is not a choice. ENDA is important also because it's when we're in a workplace, we shouldn't be judged, evaluated, promoted, what have you, on the basis of our sexual orientation, our gender identity, or our gender-influenced persona. We should be just evaluated on the basis of our productivity. What do we do on the job? That's what's really important. There have been studies that affirm that discrimination against LGBTs is every bit as common as discrimination on the basis of race or on the basis of gender. Studies have shown a lot of workplace discrimination against LGBTs, some subtle and nuanced, some very obvious and dramatic. There are local laws in many states and communities to protect our rights, but they don't really protect as powerfully as federal protection, which would cover everybody in every state. A main problem with respect to the DoD workforce is we have been stuck with don't ask, don't tell for so long. It has had an erosive effect of conditioning supervisors and workers to disrespect LGBTs. So the struggle to get through don't ask, don't tell has not just been a matter of equality for service members, it has an influence on all of us. How are we going to solve the problem of this workplace discrimination? I call this Harvey Milk strategy. It's really educating people that we are human beings just as they are. Our sexual identity and our gender identity is a small part of what we are as human beings. We also believe that by taking this issue to the DoD workplaces, that we will be able to leverage off diversity recognition that is already in place, for example, on the basis of race or on the basis of gender. There has been learning and work and teaching people about humanity with respect to other categories of person. We believe that we can leverage off that same process to increase the acceptance and understanding of LGBTs. There are other parts of the federal workforce that have been recognizing LGBTs in the workplace, respecting them, honoring them, and making them part of diversity training for everybody. This has not happened in the DoD, and we need to change that. There have been instances also where there have been policies of acceptance of LGBTs that have been promoted but ignored, and people are harassed in that workplace. We can't depend on local policies to protect us as LGBTs. We need something more sweeping and more powerful. That would be federal legislation. This is not the start of the attempt to protect LGBTs. Going back to 1998, the Clinton administration put forward an executive order that would reinterpret the Civil Service Reform Act that goes back to 1978. It would add sexual orientation, therefore it covered LGBTs. Obama did the same thing. President Obama did the same thing in 1999 with respect to gender identity. One of the main weaknesses of executive orders, they're something that a president can do on his or her own hook, but the remedies under law are limited. And as I said, this has been ignored fundamentally in the DoD. There was a military exemption that attended Don't Ask, Don't Tell that has never been removed. The DoD's reason to exclude diversity recognition and diversity training was Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Now it's gone, but things have not changed yet. There is a stubborn resistance in the Defense Department. The purpose of workplace training is to prevent hostile acts against LGBTs. These may be subtle, these may be very dramatic. As an attorney, I have had people come to me with startlingly bad experiences in the workplace, particularly for transgender people. Another reason to prevent the active discrimination in the workplace is it has a terrible effect on worker productivity. If you feel insecure, unwanted, hated even, you're not going to be as good a worker. That's pretty obvious. In my own work, a colleague told me about being at a meeting with members of the military. We generally worked with higher level officers. A young man who was brilliant at math came to that meeting to contribute to it. He worked for our company. He had long hair, he had a shoulder bag, and as soon as he walked into the room, my friend said there was a chill. He was not included in the conversation. His abilities, and they were brilliant, were not recognized by the people in that room. So he was not able to do his best on his job and to contribute to the mission of our company. There is even criminal behavior and physical attacks in workplaces. Not as common, but it cannot be tolerated. And to the extent that we can have people learn about our humanity and accept us as fellow human beings in the workplace, we will not see these sorts of oppression visited on honest workers. From my lawyer perch, there is also a danger of litigation expenses being brought against the government because of these incidents, and they should be brought. It's a waste of taxpayer money to have to use financial remedies to address the results of this discrimination. Let's just do away with it and save the money for the mission. There is a relevant piece of legislation in the works that was signed in 2009. It's the Matthew Shepard, James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Act. And I would guess that most people remember Matthew Shepard was a young gay man who was essentially crucified on a fence in Wyoming. James Byrd was an African-American man who was dragged to his death as his body fell apart. He was dragged by two young men driving a pickup truck. What is particularly salient for me about this act is there was a long struggle for this hate crimes legislation to pass. It illustrated how persistence pays off. The act amends federal law. It provides support and resources to the state. It provides protection against hateful actions on the basis of gender, race, religion, sexual identity, sexual orientation. And it has been brought to the workplace. It has to be brought to the workplace. So even employees, workers in the DOD have been made aware of hate crime legislation and the penalties and the issues behind this legislation. This really essentially breaks trail for us on this ENDA issue.
My name